Spoilers were farming you.
All right, so this past weekend, I had the pleasure of going out to San Antonio for the Alamo City Comic-Con. I want to send a huge shout-out and thank you to Apple, the organizer of Alamo City. I went out there as his guest, and I didn't really know what to expect. And I was treated to...
Show us on the dial where they touched you.
I was treated to hospitality like I've never received before. So thank you to everyone at the Alamo City 2016 crew. You guys were phenomenal. You guys treated us so well. And if you want to hear more about Alamo City Comic-Con and my experience out there, again, we want you to tune in to Final Encountercast. That's coming up at 5 p.m. over at twitch.tv/Final Encountercast. We invite you to join us. We're going to be talking to Goku voice actor Sean Schemmel about the SAG-AFTRA strike currently initiated for the video game industry. Now, you guys will remember that a couple of months ago we talked to David Hayter, the voice actor behind Solid Snake, and we found out all about the SAG-AFTRA strike and why it was so important from his point of view. Well, this weekend out at Alamo City Comic-Con, I had the pleasure to be introduced to a man by the name of James Arnold Taylor. Now, you may know that name as the voice of Johnny Test or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, but everyone in this chat room knows him as Tidus from Final Fantasy X. Well, he was nice enough to give me a few minutes and give me his opinion and his take on the SAG-AFTRA strike. I am hanging out with James Arnold Taylor, a voice actor. You may know him from such roles as Johnny Test, Fred Flintstone, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course, Tidus from Final Fantasy X. Now, we wanted to talk to James a little bit about the SAG-AFTRA strike, which is currently going on. James, what can you tell us about the SAG-AFTRA strike?
Well, you know, it's one of those things where I think in the initial thought, people go, oh, more actors striking, wanting more money. And it's really not so much about that as much as about what the whole concept of video games has become. And it is indeed, on their notes, on the words of the game makers, bigger than the movie industry. And they are a, $23 billion a year industry. And it's not like then, oh, we just want a bunch of that money. It is, okay, the movie industry works it this way. We get paid residuals, which means if a film does well, and we're only talking about a very small minority of the games, if those particular games do well, then a percentage would go back to some of the actors that played in the games. But it's really also, hopefully, a door to open up for all of the other folks that work very hard in these games. There's fantastic artists, game designers, writers, all these people that work so hard. And it would be our hope that they would unionize, as we have with the SAG and AFTRA, and to be able to get their share of the success in the games as well. But, it's not one of those things where it's just like people are looking for money. So I think that's the biggest thing people need to remember.
Well, and when we spoke with David Hayter about 6 months ago, one of the things that he said was that, one of the things that he really wanted to make sure was clear is that it's not just a request for residuals. It's a request for residuals after a certain profit margin, which is, I think, a really important distinction to make, because a lot of people who do think, like, yeah, this is all about just getting more money, I don't think that they really understand what the margins that you guys work on are.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about games that make millions and millions of copies, that sell millions of copies, not just a game that does moderate or whatever, and then we're looking for money on that. And, a game like Final Fantasy, people always assume that I'm kind of sitting on a pile of money from that. I got paid a session fee, which was, SAG scale. Now, granted, we did a lot of sessions, and I'm very grateful. I love working in video. I'm the voice of Ratchet in the Ratchet and Clank game series. Love the folks at Insomniac. I do all sorts of video games, and I love doing them, and I want to continue to do them. It's only on those games that are, again, those huge hits that make millions and millions of copies sold, where there is a small percentage that just says, okay, we acknowledge your part of this. And that's really what it is, because the rest of our industry, be it television, even the internet, or movies, that's how our contracts work.
That's typically how talent has been compensated in media for a really long time, and it seems to me that you guys are just fighting for the same, really the same treatment. And I think that that's totally fair, especially when you have scenarios like with the most recent Metal Gear Solid game where you have a major motion picture actor coming in and taking over the role. And I have to wonder, what deal he ended up getting on that too.
Yeah, generally they will pay them a very large sum, and they'll have some sort of agreement with an actor that is of a name. Voice actors, I think a lot of people too, I've been very fortunate, very blessed in my career to work on so many wonderful projects, but most voice actors work a couple jobs a month. It is not something where they are making money hand over fist. They are doing it for the love of the craft of it. That's certainly why I've wanted to do it since I was 4 years old. I've been fortunate to do it as my whole career. But people think, they just make all this money. It's one job at a time. It's usually scale, which is, for a video game, that's $800 some odd.
Right.
So if you do one game every couple of months, that's not doing much. That's barely paying somebody's rent, maybe, and depending on where they live. And if you live in Los Angeles, that's maybe paying a quarter of your rent. So, yeah. People have to keep it in perspective. There's a lot of wonderfully talented actors out there that are not working all the time. And these games are a great way of doing that. But it's about vocal stress.
Yes.
The only times I've ever lost my voice are working on video games. I did a Spider-Man game years ago where I played Electro. Completely lost my voice for a week. Wasn't able to do more work after that. So it affects you. So, there's also stunt work and mocap that's being done in these games now, and that's also part of the contract. So it's just fair working environments that we're looking for that are safe. And, I hope that it comes to a conclusion soon. Who knows? You never know. I mean, they've got a lot of money. They got a lot of power. But hopefully people will see that the performance matters. That's been our little hashtag.
Yes.
And that, games like Ratchet and Clank, Final Fantasy, all of those, Metal Gear, all these games wouldn't be possible without Screen Actors Guild actors. So
you're absolutely right. And one of the things that we're hoping to act as a sounding board is just for this issue. This is a huge issue. It affects, the products that we all love. And I know that at least from our perspective, we totally stand with the voice actors. So we are definitely supporting you guys. James Arnold Taylor, can you tell our audience where to find out more information if they want to find out more about you?
About me? Well, thank you. JamesArnoldTaylor.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JATActor, Jat Actor. I kind of go by Jat. I've got a YouTube channel that tells you all about voiceover, take you behind the scenes of my life as a voice actor. People, please subscribe to James Arnold Taylor's YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun, and you'll learn all sorts about voice acting.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
James Arnold Taylor, voice of Tidus from Final Fantasy X, also Sonic. Let's see.
Hedgehog?
Yes, Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, the fast food chain, you idiot. I love their food.
As well as Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank. He's also been on shows like Pokemon. The Powerpuff Girls,
Fairly Odd Parents.
Yes, the Fairly Odd Parents,
Love
Invader Zim, Johnny Test, Family Guy, tons of others. Thank you to James Arnold Taylor for a couple of minutes of his time.
I've noticed there are two types of voice actors. All right, there are ones like Joe DiMaggio that you hear his voice everywhere. And
John DiMaggio.
Yeah, sorry, John. And it's not
Wow.
well. Joe DiMaggio is a person.
Yes, he is. It's just he's known for a very different set of skills.
Anyway,
great job, Juxta.
You hear him. Classic Juxta. Whether you're hearing him as Waka or Bender or he's Jake in Adventure Time, right?
Yes.
Whatever. Like you can distinctly hear his voice, no matter who he
Marcus
is.
Phoenix as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a big deal. But then when I hear him talk, I just hear Tidus.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, and that's the thing is that James Arnold Taylor just kind of used his natural speaking voice for Tidus. He just kind of he made it a little bit more squeaky because we got a liner from him as Tidus as well, and it's really hard to tell. All he does is pitch his voice up just slightly.
Can we listen to it after the show?
Yeah, totally.
Does Sean Schimmel sound just like Goku, or is that clearly a different voice he's doing?
No, Sean Schimmel. As I was listening to it, I was like, oh man, I keep hearing Goku kind of like peek out at me, and it's weird.
Like when he gets more intense.
It's like almost like when he's not thinking about it. You'll hear it over on Final Encounter Cast, guys. Join us over on Final Final Encountercast. We're going to be talking to Sean Schimmel. We got access to a lot of really, really cool people.
They want to hear it.
Out
Too
at
bad.
We don't bow down to terrorists.
at Alamo City this year, and we definitely will be playing the Sean Schimmel interview over there. So again, thank you, huge shout out and thank you to James Arnold Taylor, who was nice enough to give us a couple of minutes for that. Hang on, I'm looking for the
Tidus one.
The Tidus one, and I actually may not have cut it. Yeah. Darn, I don't think I did.
Do we have something for him?
No. I mean, outside of that interview, you heard that interview. I can't play any of these other bumpers.
No. Like, do you have any lines cut? Any liners?
No, I can't play any of them because they're for our as of yet unnamed publicly show.
That's right. Sorry, guys. we tried.
Yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, yeah. So you're right that there are voice actors, kind of a lot like your H. John Benjamin, who does Bob from Bob's Burgers and Archer.
And you get the same thing with actors too. I mean, every single person that Morgan Freeman
Nicolas Cage
plays, or like Denzel Washington, they're always the same.
Morgan Freeman can't really affect a voice. I've never heard him do a voice, right? Like
he's just Morgan Freeman.
If he did an impression of someone that was really good, and any other voice that came out of his mouth came out, I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Then you get the opposite, where you get people like Hugh Laurie, where you're expecting to hear Dr. House, and you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. It can be really weird, but it was really neat getting to hang out with these folks. If you want to hear all of my stories, because I have a bunch of stories that I want to tell, that's over at Final Encountercast at 5. That's twitch.tv/Final Encountercast. And we'll also be talking to Sean Schimmel, the voice of Goku, about the SAG-AFTRA strike. Guys, this is hugely important. The SAG-AFTRA strike is hugely, hugely important, and it's something that we've talked about on FEC before, but we've never had an opportunity to talk about on Limit Break Radio. And as we know, the voice actors, that are that get their work through SAG-AFTRA have initiated a work stoppage against the video game industry. Now, what does that mean exactly? What that means is that games that are not currently in production, they will not be able to use union talent in upcoming projects. So what happens when you don't use union talent? Well, you can't always guarantee that you're going to get quality work. I mean, have you guys heard some of like the Final Fantasy Type 0 voice acting? I mean, I don't know whether those people were union or not, but when you use talent that's not that's not doing this all the time, you're gonna have a bit rockier of a product.
Remember when Tyrion Lannister was the robot voice in Destiny? I remember.
What was that voice?
It does.
That's
it's
my
not.
Cartman.
It's not. What? Why would it be
Cartman?
Why?
No.
The worst.
Are you?
Cartman.
Are you? You're just not watching South Park, are you?
Guys,
No,
I just confused Morgan Freeman from Mel Gibson. Give me a break. I'm having like a seizure or something. I don't know, an aneurysm.
Do you smell burning toast?
I just assumed that was Juxta.
He does smell like bread.
What?
Bread and ham.
At least say yeast. Jesus.
Anyway.
It's like you guys aren't even funny anymore.
Anyway. Yeah, I leave for a week. What happened? What happened?
What happened?
We left the show in the hands of Nika, Ascalia, and Juxta. That's what happened.
Exactly what you would expect happened.
And where were you?
I carried it.
Where were you, Kahlo?
I'm never on the show. Come on.
I know you're not, but the one time you really need to be, you don't show.
You know what? It was a dumpster fire waiting to happen. I don't want to be any part of that.
What happened?
Anyway, this is going to be a real big deal, especially in the next year or so. If they end up continuing this work stoppage, you're going to have productions that are using, not tested talent for their final product.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good enough vocal director to compensate, someone who's smart enough to know that line's not going to work, right? then you're going to have really fucked up end products. And so what this, what this tells me is I guess the video game industry must be very, very, very sure of their vocal directors, which they shouldn't be.
Well, the big problem is they think that voice acting is only 0.1% of the work being done. And let's just pretend that's true,
right?
Okay?
Yeah.
Guess what? What we're seeing and what we're taking in as players, it's a lot more than 0.1%, and bad voice acting can and will kill a game.
It will ruin a game. It will literally ruin a game. It cannot just steal moments. It can ruin the final product. And that is, I think, what we don't want to see. We know that these talents, like Sean Schimmel, like Jennifer Hale, like David Hayter, these are people who are they're pros. They've been doing this since the advent of voice acting for video games. And you really want to tell me that their experience and that their talent doesn't matter? That you could just take somebody who has a pleasing voice and get the same performance out of them? Look, I've got a great voice, okay?
Humble brag.
I do. I've got a great voice. A lot of people like listening to my voice. That doesn't mean I'm a good voice actor.
No. Sure
at all.
He's terrible.
I'm pretty fucking bad. It takes good direction. It takes having, it takes repetition, making mistakes. Vocal consistency.
Make us sound like you're being decapitated. That was so bad.
I don't know.
Escalia, want to try?
No. What sound does a decapitated person make?
I don't know.
Is their heads getting cut off?
You're asking me.
But this is the kind of stuff they ask them to do.
You set me up for a folly line, not for a fucking. I don't have the ability to make sound effects.
Yeah, that's a sound.
But that's what they ask them to do. Your arm's being broken. You're being tortured because your leg's being ripped off.
Okay, you can make noises with that. When you get decapitated, you lose your head.
Yeah.
Depends on how quickly they're decapitating you. What if they're slowly sawing it off?
That's why mine stopped halfway through the noise.
Oh, it was a fast one?
Well, because my head was being chopped off.
All right.
I wasn't trying to make the noise of being.
I think he has one.
All right, here's a slow one. Hey, dick. That's what it said if it didn't cut you.
Wow. That's terrible.
Okay.
Wow, okay.
This is why it's important to pay people.
Great job, Skirl. I'm impressed.
Oh, you piece of shit.
You know what we should do?
What?
We should just pull up lines for something. Like anything. It could be fucking Glenn Ross, and just try to do it with the four of us in the room.
Oh my
and
God.
Just prove that even people who sit around and talk into microphones for a living, that even then you provide them with the material that you're still going to get a shitty performance. This is why voice actors matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get a good performance out of probably Kahlo, maybe me. But this half of the room, that's where it's going to fall.
Everybody else.
That's where it's going to fall apart.
He's making
we're best at voice acting. Me, Escalia, and Nika.
Yeah, we got through the whole of FF11 voice acting it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing that what you're going up against is silence.
Yeah.
Hi, this is my Ahura voice. I am talking.
All right. Well, I'm not going to throw my lot in with him, but Nika and I did fine.
I'm just saying, there's a lot more than doing a voice. There's inflection.
Yeah.
It's more than just talking to kindergartners, Nika.
Yeah. What?
It's feeling.
Okay. Anyway, so
and believe me, I know all about swallowing.
See?
God damn it.
Quick question on the state of the strike. Did I hear you say right that the only stuff that's affected are contracts that have started or would have started after the strike? If a contract is already in place, does that still stand?
Yes.
Well,
it's after a certain date.
There is a cutoff date that stuff that is currently in production, if it was like I think a certain percentage of the way through that
they would finish.
Yeah, that they would.
I really hope Mass Effect wasn't affected.
Oh, I guarantee you it is. I guarantee you it is.
Wasn't affected.
Well, where do you? How much development do you think has been done on Mass Effect Andromeda?
12?
No, it's coming out next year. I'd say they're probably further along than we think they are. As far as voice acting, though, the fact that they have that contest going,
that to me says that's the last step in the process, man. And generally it is. Like
they're going to give all the roles to people who tried out for the contest now.
Great. So we're going to have Nick and Escalia voicing Andromeda.
It's going to be great.
I mean, to be honest, like, that's one of the last things, unless you're doing mocap on top of it, that you're going to do for your game.
Yeah.
Is because, I mean, think about when you localize a foreign game, that game is complete, and that vocal staff has to match to an existing product. Like it's not that inconceivable that's one of the last things to happen in a development process.
It's pointing out that depending on the length of the strike, this could end up affecting contracts for English dubs of Final Fantasy XIV.
Yes,
Stormblood,
it could also end up affecting the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh, well, hold on, wait. Wasn't the strike's only affecting 3 major corporations and their subsidiaries?
That is true. It's the 3 companies that are based in the United States, but
so maybe not necessarily.
Well, yeah, but it gets a little bit confusing when you throw Japanese companies into the mix because you don't really know all the time how people are compensated, or even how they're hired. A lot of times you're hired through the studio by the vocal director, and you're actually being paid by the vocal studio as opposed to the actual game development studio.
And no, Smokey, the changes that we got in Heaven's Word were not because of this.
But I mean, Final Fantasy VII is an actual, the remake there might be a product that could be, that could be affected by this. And I'm just going to say, look, I had the chance to meet with Mina Suvari at Alamo City Comic-Con, who is the voice of Aerith, and she didn't have time to give me an actual interview, but when I asked if she would be reprising her role for the remake, she said she hadn't been contacted yet. So
wow,
I mean, I don't know what that says about.
Hold on. The beginning of last year, weren't there like rumors popping around that like they had episode 1 or whatever done, but they haven't contacted anyone for voice acting yet?
Again, the English localization is probably going to be the last process on a game like that. Yeah. But, I mean, I think that says a lot. And plus, also, when you've got FF15 that's going to be released next month, everything is being focused on FF15. Nothing is on 7. No emphasis on 7 yet. I mean, when we start hearing about to my knowledge, all they cut was the trailer. That's it. And I mean, I look.
The trailer's done.
I can't say much more than that because a lot of the conversations were off the record. But most people, most voice actors, when you ask them, "Hey, what do you got coming up?" they'll tell you some really bomb ass shit that they're working on. There's a lot of things. Talking to Tom Kenny, I'm super excited for what Tom Kenny's working on.
Woo!
So you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is not. Like it's not that closely guarded a secret. Mm-hmm. That concerns me. It makes me worry. And it should make you worry. And I think that's why we should be very vocal as consumers that this issue needs to be worked through.
Yeah, pay them what they deserve. And not just pay them, give them the proper environment that they deserve to work in.
Exactly. Everyone deserves a comfortable working environment where they're not going to be, harming their future ability to work. And when you've got game sessions that last, hundreds of lines, many of them, repeated screams over and over again, that adds a lot of stress. And so in conditions like that, in sessions like that, there should be an additional compensation for that. There should be additional consideration for those things. If it's a very vocally stressful session, capping the amount of session time. A lot of times you go in there and you get, you just get lines and you do them till they're done. Being a little bit more conscious of what you're giving your performer, what you're asking of your performer. That's not even that much. That's not even a big ask. And then to say, like there's a lot of that pushback where people are like, well, what about what about coders and programmers? And they say
guess
that
what? They deserve more too.
And and that's the thing is that, they say that on the dub side. Well, what about animators? You got animators working slave wages, and you know what? Those people should absolutely unionize, and they should absolutely fight for their right to be fairly compensated. But what we're talking, that just muddies the conversation. It's not about the programmers, because you ask a lot of the voice actors, they're like, yeah, they should absolutely be paid more and compensated more because the margins are so huge. We're talking about billions of dollars that are going back, billions of dollars in profit margins. And you mean to tell me that after a certain point, after you've made so much money on your game that you can't afford to go back and compensate the people who helped make it? This is an incredibly creative field that we all love. To make a video game takes a lot of creativity, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort. And those people should be fairly compensated. I get really bummed out when I hear about people working for $15 an hour, working 60-hour weeks and busting their balls, and they can barely afford to make their rent.
Now, one of the reasons too that when people say, "Oh, just the money, blah blah blah," they're being selfish, all this kind of crap, is there is such a difference between voice actors and an actor. Those are actually qualified as two different positions. Had David Hayter done Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5, he would not have been paid even a fraction of what what's his name? Kiefer Sutherland got. And he would have done so much more work.
Right.
That's why it's fucked up.
Yeah, because Kiefer Sutherland's price tag was probably so high. That's why we didn't hear much of Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5.
And he probably gets residuals from that.
And that's, I think, really the shot in the dick that these voice actors are taking. Is that, you'll have someone like Kiefer Sutherland come in, do a big role in a big video game, and you kind of know in the back of your head, this guy is smart enough to know that this game is going to sell millions of copies, and his agent's smart enough and he's a big enough actor, a big enough star, and a big enough price tag that they probably had to cut him in on residuals. They probably had to. And to know that someone like that is going to step in to a role like that, do way less work, and be compensated far more. Granted, look, Kiefer Sutherland has done a lot of work to get where he is and to earn the price tag that he's allowed to ask for on a project. But it shouldn't give him additional leverage to say, "Oh, I want residuals and fuck you if you don't want to give them to me." Because obviously the video game industry is coming to him wanting his talent. He can go work on 100 other different things. Yeah. That shitty Designated Survivor show that he's on now. He's got a lot of options.
Bring back Jack Bauer.
He's got a lot of fucking options. And the fact that, he probably got a big residual checks from all of those copies of MGS 5. Man, that bums me out, because David Hayter, to work on Metal Gear Solid in the past, has taken pay cuts to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. This is the definition of unfair treatment. And absolutely, hey, let's remaster a game and use all the same lines, but guess what? You don't get paid for them. Exactly. Let's put out a greatest hits. You don't get paid for it. That's fucked up. Yeah. I mean, look at the Skyrim remaster. A lot of those lines sound compressed. A lot of the VO in that sounds compressed. It's arguably a worse version that went out for PS3, Xbox 360 in the first round. And you know what that was? All that is just not wanting to pay your voice actors again. All they did was literally copy and paste. That's it.
Yeah.
And the dumb thing is that somewhere in that process, it got bumped down by, a couple of kilobytes per second.
That's quality.
And guess what? People fucking noticed. People noticed. They're going to notice. Every time I replay Metal Gear Solid 3, the HD version, I notice this background hum, this high-pitched, it's just this very, very hard to detect, but I hear every time a line goes out. And it's because they didn't bother to redo any of the voice sessions. And it was a fucked up, imperfect session in the first place. Go back to PS2, I may have never noticed that.
Yeah.
Because you make every other sound so crisp that in comparison, you have the budget to bump up your sound effects and the fidelity there. But you're going to copy and paste the voice lines?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Comparatively, oh, wow, that makes the voice line sound like shit. It's happened a couple of times, and it keeps happening. And guess what? If the SAG-AFTRA strike continues, it's going to get worse. Ugh. It's going to get fucking worse. I mean, dude, if, imagine a game comes out and just you can't even listen to the voice acting.
I'd love to play Disgaea, but I can't get past that weepy voice acting. And that's top quality weeb too.
That's just anime, man.
It's true.
It's part
but what if they have to go to that kind of voice acting for all the games we love because they're the only ones who will do it?
Anime.
Yeah. So, look, this is something that is really important. I'm glad that we had a way to talk about it here on Limit Break Radio. And yeah, look, if you want to know more about this, again, you can check out a lot of different sites about it. You can search SAG-AFTRA to know more info. And also, we want to say a huge shout out and thank you to James Arnold Taylor for giving us some time. JamesArnoldTaylor.com, YouTube.com/James Arnold Taylor. Check out the Jat channel, as well as Twitter.com/Jat Actor to find him on Twitter. Super cool guy. It was a really big pleasure to get to know him. And thank you so much to James for doing that. By the way, he can also be seen on the film I Know That Voice. If you're interested about voice acting and you want to know more about it for video games, for cartoons, and you want to understand how much these people legitimately care about the craft that they do. This is a craft. Most everyone who does this looks at Mel Blanc as a fucking hero. And that's the thing, is that there is a very real craft. There's an emotional connection to this. Okay? And all of these folks have that emotional connection. So you can check out the film I Know That Voice if you want just like almost a first-hand account of what it's like to be a voice actor. By the way, James Arnold Taylor featured in that as well. You can find out how he had landed on the voice for Fred Flintstone. It's actually a really interesting story. I invite you to check that out. Now,